Here we go, showdown of two of the most popular battle rifles out there, the H&K MR762A4 versus the Knight's Armament SR-25 ACC upper with the 14.5-inch chrome-lined barrel. If you're curious how these two top-of-the-line 308 battle rifles stack up out to distance, then stick around because we've got an awesome video in the works. So how about we just hammer some steel right here with the MR762. This is 665 yards. And of course the SR-25 here. Yeah, this is going to be fun. Here we go with a video that I absolutely cannot wait to share with you. We're about to take a dive into two of the most premium battle rifles on the market right now and how they stack up in a side-by-side comparison. We're going to take a look at the new H&K MR762A4, complete with all the A4 updates, alongside the Knight's Armament 14.5-inch SR-25 in 308. So if you like the sounds of that, maybe you find yourself in the market for a new 308 battle rifle, and you want to understand how these stack up, then this video is for you. It's going to be a ton of fun, so stick around. So what's my plan for the video? Well, obviously we're going to take a look at 100-yard groups with a couple of different loads. Then we're going to move out and engage steel targets from maybe 400, hopefully to 1,000 yards, and give you a look at performance when these are both equipped as battle rifles. So to me, a battle rifle, it's not a precision rifle per se. It's something maybe with an LPVO that you can shoot quickly up close if needed. But then you've got 10 power on each of these rifles to be able to engage maybe a torso out to 600 or 800 yards and push further if needed. So then after, we're going to wrap up right here, and I'm going to chat through my experience running each of these side by side. This is going to be super fun. So first off, let's talk about the gear we're going to run in this video. Well, as I mentioned, one of the rifles we're going to review or be running is the new H&K MR762A4. This is going to be a 308 with a 16-inch barrel. It's going to be piston driven. So I like the piston driven the more I shoot it because it's pretty clean. You don't get the carbon fouling back in the receiver that you do in a direct impingement. But the A4 in particular is going to have their new adjustable gas block. So this is going to be an update particular to the A4. It's got their new kind of slimmer M-LOK handguard on it. It's very, very comfortable. It's supposed to shave some weight. So this rifle, I wouldn't say it's light, but it's definitely lighter than its predecessor in the A1. This is going to be a complete H&K rifle. It's going to have their trigger in it, their buttstock. For an optics package up top, we're going to be running the Griffin Armament. This is a second focal plane 1-10. I like this optic. It's only like 550 bucks. They did provide it. But it has a nice kind of clean mill reticle in it. So because it's second focal plane, you're going to see me dialing in the scope versus holding, just so that I make sure I don't get an incorrect hold. It's going to be in the Griffin Armament mount, and then up top, we're going to be running the Tango NS Fire 4000 weapon-mounted laser rangefinder. We're going to be using this to range our targets out at distance, as well as provide us a firing solution for holdovers at each of the yard lines. So that is going to be the rig we're running. It is worth noting the H&K I did purchase through H&K's industry program. So it was purchased at a discounted rate. I do have money invested in this unit, but it was not full price. And the final piece we need to mention here is the suppressor that we're running. This is going to be the Texas Flood from Fletcher Rifle Works. This can, I felt like, paired really well with this rifle for a couple reasons. Number one, it's titanium. It is extremely light. So where this rifle is a little bit nose heavy, you put a titanium can on it, you're not as heavy as you would be with a standard style can. So I like the titanium. It's hub mount, so I could throw it on. This is a Huxworks mount that we're running here. And then it's got a vented end cap on it, so that way we're able to vent gases out the front and just not beat up this piston system more than we need to. So that's going to be the 308 we're running. Throughout the video, you're going to be getting a first-person shooting view through my new Scopemate S28 camera. If you've been around my channel, you've seen me have some challenges with scope cameras previously, and so far the Scopemate seems to be holding up, and I'm happy with that performance. So that's what you're going to be viewing through each of the optics with. So that is the H&K. Now let's take a look at the SR-25. So on the Knight's Armament side, we're going to be running a complete Knight's Armament SR-25 and 308. This is going to be their 14.5-inch ACC 308 upper. So this is now an SBR lower. It's under 16 inches, so it's an SBR rifle. I tell you what, when I first got this, I thought a 14.5-inch 308 might be a little bit crazy, but the more I shoot it, it's very, very capable out to battle rifle distances, 600 to 800 yards. And I tell you what, it is very, very maneuverable. A little bit shorter weight means it's not very nose heavy. It's very maneuverable. Really like this 14.5-inch upper. So factory Knights rifle, it does have a Geisley SDE trigger in it. So I have a trigger upgrade in this rifle and not in the HK. For a suppressor, we're going to be running the Knights Armament CRS PRG CQB. So this is going to be their small 30 caliber can. And again, I felt like being a small can, it would pair well to give me a nice compact battle rifle style package. At this point, I do want to give a shout out to Silencer Shop. I tell you what, Silencer Shop is someone I've done business with for a long, long time. And I appreciate what they're doing in the NFA world. They have made the process of acquiring suppressors and SBRs so easy. They have made the process quick and painless. With them, you're able to use things like a single shot truss, which is very, very simple. You're able to save your profile online, so that way you can submit paperwork. Maybe you're on the road traveling. I've done that several times. I tell you what, once you do the process one time, you're gonna be hooked. And there's no better time to get into NFA than right now. So for an optics package on this rig, we're going to be running a 10 power LPVO. This is going to be the Eotech Vudu 1 to 10. This is going to be a first focal plane optic. And I tell you what, this was provided by Brownells. So another supporter of the channel that I really, really appreciate. If you find yourself interested in supporting me, make sure you're doing it through Brownells by my code MULLETS. That'll actually save you 10% off of an order over 150 bucks. So thank you to Brownells. Make sure you swing by to pick up whatever you're looking for. I am a big fan of this optic. So we put it on the Knights and we'll see how she runs. It's in a Night Force mount. And then up top, we're going to be running the Maztec X4. This is going to be the 2K weapon-mounted laser rangefinder. We're going to be using this to range targets and get our ballistic data. And the final piece I want to mention on this rifle is really cool. So this is going to be the offset. This is a Vortex red dot. I picked this up off of the prize table there at the Day Mountain Ranch earlier this year. So thank you to Day Mountain and Vortex. But it's in a ball knobber mount. And I tell you what, with this red dot on the left-hand side at 90 degrees, I'm able to open my left eye, view through the red dot, to quickly get on target or shoot something up close if needed, and then boom, rapidly transition with my right eye into the LPVO. This is a super slick setup for this Night Force mount. So that's going to be the SR-25 that we're running. Ammo. We're going to be shooting throughout the video my 169 SMK hand load. So shout out to Sierra for their support. I love that 169 SMK in the 308 gas guns, especially the short ones. Now I haven't fine-tuned that load for either of these rifles. I literally have loaded the bullet to mag length and put enough varget powder in it to get it to a velocity that makes sense. So not sure what to expect out of either of these rifles for really velocity performance, but I think that bullet's going to be great as far as a battle rifle bullet to extend the capabilities of these rifles. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I feel like these rifles in this configuration should be good to 600 yards, maybe 800, depending on the target, full-size torso. To me, that's battle rifle DMR space. If we can push further, we can, but really my expectation is solid hits out to 600, and then 800's a maybe, 1000 would be gravy. Now we are comparing a 14.5-inch chrome line barrel versus a 16-inch non-chrome barrel. And I understand that's not apples to apples, but in my opinion, these two examples represent what's available on the market right now. HK, it's a premium 308, this is what they offer. And in the Knights Armament space, this is what they would offer for their kind of top-end battle rifle. So that's why I'm putting these up side by side. So from here, let's move down to the 100-yard line, shoot some groups, and then we'll wrap up right back here with a summary of my experience. Well, let's get started with 100-yard performance out of both rifles. Now at the 100-yard line, I fired the 169 SMK hand load that we're going to push out to distance, a 175 SMK load from Desert Tech, and then a 155 American gunner load from Hornady. So what I wanted to do was just get an idea of accuracy on paper, confirm zero, and then see how a couple of different bullet weights performed out of each rifle. So let's chat through the results. Now first up, I fired the SR-25 along the left-hand side. So out of the gate, now it's worth noting, prior to shooting these groups, I did get zeroed up on a different sheet of paper. I put up fresh paper for this. So out of the gate, I fired 10 rounds of the 169 SMK hand load. So this is the load that I just kind of crammed together and usually shoots pretty well out of my 308s. Now, as you can see here, neither rifle really loves it, but the 10 rounds here went into a group that's 2.27 MOA, so a little over 2 MOA. You know, for a battle rifle, that's going to be doable on a torso type target. Certainly, I'd love to see more accuracy, maybe play with some seating depth here, but 2.27 MOA is what the SR-25 did. For velocity performance, I'm happy with it. Average of 24.53 out of that 14.5-inch barrel. Extreme spread of 25 with an SD of 7.3. So that spread is going to be really nice to push out to distance, even if the accuracy isn't spectacular. I then immediately moved up and fired 5 rounds of the Eotech 175 SMK load. You can see those 5 rounds went into a group that's 1.24 MOA, or roughly 1 MOA better than the 10-round group. Now keep in mind, 10 rounds, there's heat, shooter fatigue, etc. But 5 rounds into 1.24 MOA is pretty respectable. Now these are warm, so these are quite warm out of both rifles, but those 5 rounds average 24.72 feet per second. So typically a 175 SMK out of that rifle is like 24.25. So these are about 50 feet per second fast. Extreme spread of 53 with an SD of right at 17. So accuracy wise, I'm happy with it. Shows potential with the 175. Maybe we'll shoot some more of that bullet out of this rifle. Previously, I've seen the 175 shoot well out of this rifle. And then 5 rounds here on the top left dot of the Hornady American Gunner. Those 5 rounds are going to measure 1.34 MOA. So again, pretty respectable. Maybe something to try there with the lighter bullets. Now the velocity here, average of 24.25 is slow for a 155. The spread is 102 with an SD of 38. So that spread is pretty massive. And this has been kind of my experience with this ammo. It's a little bit slow for what it is, and there's a lot of spread there. But you know, potential for accuracy there, maybe a little bit of a cheaper load to plink with. Now the HK I fired along the right-hand side. Here I fired the 169 SMK hand load. You can see those 10 rounds went into a group that measures 2.17 MOA, so almost identical to what the SR-25 did, a little over 2 MOA. Again, maybe some seating depth tweaking there would help clean that up a bit. Average speed of 25.05. SD, or extreme spread of 13.4, so she really likes this load. SD of 5.1, so velocity wise, that'd be really nice to push out to distance. Accuracy, which is a little bit better, but these are the loads we're going to be pushing out to distance on those torso type targets. 5 rounds of the 175 SMK Eotech load here. It's going to be 1.1 MOA, so really nice 5-round group. Average speed of 25.23, which is about 50 feet per second fast for a 16-inch barrel in my experience. Extreme spread of 25 with an SD of 8.5, so velocity performance is pretty solid there. And then wow, look at the 155 American Gunner load. This is the second sub-MOA 155 American Gunner load I've shot out of this rifle. 0.73 MOA, which is beautiful. Average speed of 24.98, again, which is slow. Extreme spread of 60 with an SD of 23.8. So you think about maybe cost-effective plinking loads, this shows potential out of both rifles. You look at velocities in the 14.5 to 16-inch. Now in both of these, you're going to see about 50 feet per second, kind of across the board there, that you're going to gain in the 16-inch barrel. Accuracy-wise though, I would say they're in the ballpark of each other. The HK definitely shows better accuracy across the board. But I tell you what, you think about a battle rifle, maybe a DMR, really anything under 1.5 MOA is pretty good and very usable. We're going to be running this load, which is 2 MOA, out to distance, and you're going to see I'm really going to have no problem hitting out to distances where you would be using these rifles set up with an LPVO, say 600 to 800 yards. So with that, let's go ahead and push out and engage some steel at distance with both rifles. Here we go on steel with the HK. I've got a 2/3 dipstick on the right and a full size on the left. Normally I would shoot this position off my 4-wheeler, but the 4-wheeler actually broke down, so we're going to run it off of the tripod here. So what I'll do, we'll look out there, there's my targets, we'll get on it, the Fire 4000, range it, 430 yards, it's calling for 2.5 up and 0.1 right. So I've put in like a 4-mile-an-hour wind from about the 4 o'clock. So let's just see what we can do here. I think I'll just hold, so let me dial up to 10, 2.5, and we'll just favor a little bit right. So there you can see, pretty easy. 430 yards on a 2/3 dipstick, no problem. Here we go on steel with the SR-25. Now the Eotech, the ocular here rotates. So with that, I'm going to leave it on 10 power, so you're nice and vertical. But to get on target quickly, I actually have an offset red dot here on the left-hand side. This is a mount from Brownells Armament. Puts an RMR footprint optic kind of there on the left. So I can actually get in this and use my left eye to put the dot on the torso. Okay, there it is, and then drop into the scope and range it. So I'm right there on it. Calling for 2.6 mils up and right 0.1. Alrighty, we'll call that the 420-yard hammer. Here we go in a sort of natural position here off of the rocks. Let me just point out here at my target. There's the full-size IPSC. We'll go ahead and range it. 667 yards. It's calling for 5.3 of elevation, which we'll dial on. That way it's nice and centered up in the scope. It's calling right 0.3. That, 2/3. Ooh, a little more wind. That. 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 Ooh, off that upper left. That's pretty fun. So elevation-wise, 5.3 is pretty solid. Load up just a couple of more. Let's go on the 2/3 again. That. That. That left edge. Or right edge. A couple more on the full size. That. So there you have it, 667 yards. When we get the windage right, we're able to connect on those torsos, really no problem. Here we go off the rocks with the SR-25. We'll go ahead and load up here. Get my mag out of the battle belt. And once again, I'm going to use my left eye, put the red dot on the torso, right there. We'll range that. 663 is calling for 5.5, and then right 2/10. Cut. Try the 2/3. Right edge. Right edge. Left edge. All right, back to the full size. We'll hammer the full size. And impact on the 2/3 finally. So, respectable run here at 660 yards. I've moved back to what I feel like might be kind of the max normal range for a battle rifle DMR like this, about 850 yards. So let's just put some rounds down there, see what we can do. So we'll get on the target here. 851 yards, calls for 8.1 up. I'll go ahead and dial that on. There we go. That's calling for 0.4 right, but we saw at 650 I needed more than that. So let's just start right, maybe 3/4, full size IPSC. Over it. That. So that one might have caught the edge, it looks like. I'm a bit wobbly. Let's try. Let's try this. Get some support on my elbow. There we go. So it seems like 8.1 mils is about right. Started to connect a little bit more once I got some support under my elbow, but ultimately a full-size torso out there at 850 with this battle rifle and LPVO, very doable. Here we go, SR-25 off the tripod here at about 850. Learned my lesson from the HK, so I'm going to start with my knee up to support my right elbow. Go ahead and load up. And once again, I'm going to use my left eye to get in the red dot and find the target. There we go. We'll range that. 847 yards is calling for 8.6, which I'll dial on. Okay, and I'm going to go just straight up with the wind. Left edge. Left edge. Back. 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 Oof, picked up. A lot of wind. Off the right edge. So, a couple impacts. A lot more wind out there than we had with the HK. Well, if you know me, you know we're not going to stop there at 850 yards. We're going to push out to at least 1,000. So that's where we're at. Kind of, I'd say beyond the limits for a rifle like this, but let's give it a go on the full-size dipstick. So, shorten my bipod. All right, so we'll point at our target here. 1016 is calling for 11.1, which I'll dial on. So this Griffin optic's pretty cool. It's got 14 mils in one rev, so I can dial all that on the first rev. And calling for 0.4 right, but I think we know that's a bit light. 0.75. Off that upper shoulder, 1 mil. Ooh, 0.5. So it took me a little while to get dialed in. There was 3 impacts there. Not a ton of confidence out here at this distance, but let's see how the SR-25 does. Here we are, probably a little over 1,000 yards. Get on my target here. We'll range that. 1,008 calls for 11.3, which I will dial on. Go. And windage-wise, if the 800-yard line was ripping pretty hard. Okay, right where I was. Just under it, let's come up 3. Actually 4. Pat. No call. The right edge. Back. No call. A little mirage there off the can. Off the left edge. So 4 impacts at 1,000 yards with a 14.5 308. Well, there it is, a side-by-side look at how the H&K compares to the SR-25 out to 1,000 yards. Let me know what you think while I chat about my experience. So first off, at the 100-yard line, we saw some pretty surprising results. With regards to accuracy, I felt like both rifles were reasonable. With the 169 SMK hand load and 10-round groups, they both fired 2.1 to 2.2 MOA groups. Not spectacular, but ultimately for a battle rifle, that is very, very usable. And you saw us make impacts on steel out at distance, especially out to say 600 yards, where I feel like a battle rifle makes sense with an LPVO like this. We even pushed out to 1,000 with impacts using that load. So 2 MOA, not spectacular. Maybe if I shoot these more, I'll fine tune a 169 SMK load for one of these or both of them. But 2 MOA works. That's a very nice bullet. It's fast, it's flat shooting. 175 SMK, we saw both of them run that Eotech load very, very well. I want to say both were just over 1 MOA. The H&K was like 1.1 MOA. The SR-25 was like 1.25. So show some promise. Maybe I'll shoot some more of that to see if the trend continues. And then the 155 from American Gunner, amazing out of the H&K. That's the second time I've shot a sub-MOA group of that load out of this rifle. So I think the H&K really likes that lighter bullet. And even the SR-25 did well with it, something like 1.34 MOA. So from an accuracy standpoint, both of these using 10 power LPVOs, I felt like they were comparable. With the 169, they both shot a similar size group. And then we moved into the other loads. Yeah, the H&K showed a little bit of an advantage, but nothing extreme. So in the future, you gotta let me know, do you want to see me explore either of these rifles with different bullets more? But my takeaway right now is accuracy is comparable. Then we move out and we shot steel, 450 yards, 650, 850, and a little over 1,000. And I noticed a couple of interesting things. So there at the 450 yard line, really couldn't miss. 100% hit ratio on a 2/3 IPSC with both rifles, as it should be. 650, we saw a little bit of difference. I did kind of notice a trend of the H&K. I had more confidence making impacts on that full-size IPSC or the 2/3. The SR-25, I was able to hit, multiple times, especially on the full-size IPSC. The 2/3, not as well as the H&K, but ultimately, at that 650 yard line, they both hammered what would be a practical torso-sized target with an LPVO. So we're winning right now. We move out to 850 or 830, which was interesting. With the H&K, once I got my position dialed in, we had a number of hits on that full-size IPSC. So really, really nice out there, 850 yards. I struggled with this rifle at 850, and I'm not sure, maybe it was me off of the tripod, maybe it was a load, I'm not sure, but I just didn't have a ton of confidence there at 850 yards with this rifle. I apologize for that. I always love to have higher hit ratios, but sometimes it doesn't come together. And then what was even crazier, we moved out to a little over 1,000 yards. We had 3 impacts with the H&K and we had 4 with the SR-25. So, my takeaways are both rifles in this configuration hammered out to 600, which I think they should. Beyond that, maybe it was on me, maybe it was the optics setup, but hit ratio dropped off. Both of them connected. Neither one of them I had a ton of confidence in. So let me know what you think about the performance of these rifles as battle rifles out to distance. What is your range, or what is your number for distance for a battle rifle? And what's your expectation for hit percent? Now, what do I notice in shooting these side by side? Number one, recoil. So the recoil on the H&K, when I was shooting it by itself, I felt like it was reasonable and comfortable. I really like shooting this rifle. I like the way it feels to shoot it. But when I shot it side by side with the SR-25, I noticed the SR-25 recoil on me was better. I'm not sure how to describe it. Maybe a little bit lighter, just a little bit more comfortable. So I prefer the recoil impulse of the SR-25 over the H&K. Not bad, but preferable. Now triggers, I don't know that it's fair because this is a Geisley, but the trigger in this is significantly better than the H&K. So the H&K running the factory trigger, a little bit heavy, a little bit mushy. I'm not that impressed. I hope the aftermarket gives us something there so that I can improve that. Obviously, I had to swap out the Knights trigger because somewhere along the way, I wanted something better. The Geisley here is just beautiful. SDE is a great trigger. So hard to compare them other than saying this one's heavy and mush versus this one's very clean. As far as, you know, the weight of the rifles, that is something you always notice about piston rifles. I agree with that. These are set up similarly, and I can notice, you know, when I hold these side by side, the HK definitely has a little bit more weight and a little bit more heft in it than this rifle, even with the Inconel can here versus the titanium. I thought the titanium on this would be an advantage, but I tell you what, when you shoulder these and hold them, you can definitely tell the HK is a bit more nose heavy than the SR-25. So if I was carrying these for long periods of time, you know, maybe a slight advantage to the SR-25. Now, other things that I've noticed here, obviously they both were very capable. They both would be great rifles, but we got to think about price. So the price on this is interesting. You look at full retail price on this HK, as the rifle sits, $4,500. That's not cheap. I know there's some places maybe you can find it a little bit below that, but you're getting a complete rifle here for $4,500. The SR-25, this upper alone cost me $4,500 at retail after waiting on a wait list for months to get it. These on the aftermarket are $6,000 plus. The lower, $1,800 to $2,000. So when it comes to cost, yeah, maybe the SR-25 has a couple perceived advantages. Are they worth several $1,000s more? Maybe that's up to you to decide. The SR-25 is cool. The SR-25 seems to hold its value very well. I believe HKs do, but I tell you what, you're getting a full rifle here versus at least an upper, or maybe not even an upper, for $4,500. So that is an interesting thing. You can't look past that. These are available, and these are sometimes hard to get. So that's the other thing to keep in mind. Can you even find one of these SR-25 uppers at retail price when you want to buy it? You know, the other thing I've got to mention between these two rifles would be this receiver lockup. So we can debate whether receiver lockup actually matters for accuracy. To me, I think it does. You know, you can dry fire with a sloppy receiver, and you can watch that crosshair snap when you don't have the receivers locked together tight. If you don't believe me, try it at home. Go ahead and dry fire enough times, and you're going to notice with a sloppy receiver set, those reticle will snap when you dry fire. The receiver lockup on this HK is tight. It is beautiful. Kudos to HK. You have nailed it in the receiver lockup, and I love that. Every one of my SR-25s from Knights, I have a AccuWedge in it, which is kind of a, a goofy solution for a $6,000 rifle to have receivers that actually lock up tight. I'm telling you, it's every one of my Knights receivers. They all have some level of slop in them. Maybe that's for reliability or whatever, but I don't really like it. I want a receiver that doesn't move. So the next thing to mention here, and this is another kind of noticeable difference for me, is magazines. So magazines, between the two here, HK is proprietary. HK, these are like 55 bucks. They're nice, they work, they're clear, and they are available in my experience, but the SR-25 is gonna run the SR-25 mag. In this case, a P mag's like 25 bucks. So you're getting two of these mags to one of these. The other thing is the size. These SR-25 mags are a little bit smaller than the HK mag, so if you're gonna run kit, this one to me is gonna be compatible with more options than the HK. You're gonna have dedicated pouches on this, versus this would fit multiple other rifles across the industry. So is this a deal breaker for me? No, but it's definitely something to note when you go into it. So those are kind of my key takeaways between the HK and the Knights SR-25. Ultimately, they're both very, very nice rifles, and I don't think you can go wrong with either one. Again, this is where I need your input. Which one do you think you would go with? If I had to choose one right now, if I just had to go out and buy a rifle right now, I probably would go with the HK. It's available. You're getting a full rifle for the price. I really, really like the piston driven. The other thing, this receiver stays much, much cleaner than a suppressed direct impingement. You pull your bolt out, your hands get filthy on this, versus this one is very, very clean. So I like the piston. Also, the HK is going to come with a 1 MOA accuracy guarantee and a barrel replacement guarantee. You shoot this thing out, HK is going to replace it for life. So there's a lot of really good things going for HK right now. You know, we can nitpick a lot of other things. You're not gonna go wrong with either one, but if you made me choose right now, I would go with the HK. I would wanna upgrade the trigger. I hope the aftermarket gives us some new stocks, but I tell you what, the accuracy guarantee, the shootability of this, it's really, really nice. So with that, let me know what you think. Do you agree with my assessment? Do you disagree? Are you Knights through and through? Is this a premier rifle? I don't know. I tell you what, from an accuracy perspective, the more I shoot this HK, the more I realize it's a very, very accurate rifle. I've never shot groups, especially with this upper, as good as I have with this HK. So for me, that's what it comes down to. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like this, I hope you'll do me a solid, help me grow this channel. Liking, but most impactful is subscribing. Make sure you're in line for my next video drop. With that, thanks for watching. Hope to see you in my next one.